Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the very first Fish It Forward podcast. I'm your host, Gil. And before we jump into today's conversation, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the podcast, a little bit about Fish It Forward, and just kind of break down what Fish It Forward means. Fish It Forward was actually created through the Utah Bass Angler Coalition and has become our slogan for the organization, and it represents our belief that we should leave our fisheries and our fishing community better than we found them. Whether that's introducing a kid to fish and volunteering on habitat projects, sharing accurate information, and supporting conservation, or simply taking care of the waters we all enjoy, everyone has the opportunity to fish it forward for the next generation. And that's really, guys, that's really the philosophy of this podcast. We just want to provide some conversation that can better Utah's fisheries, and our guests should reflect that, especially our guest today, that's going to give us some information on what's going on at Pineview Reservoir and what the outlook is for that. So we don't really have a set schedule for this podcast. Don't even know if this podcast will go past one episode, to be honest with you. Really just, I've been getting a lot of messages, a lot of questions from people wanting to, kind of sort through what the truth and what's not the truth with what's going on at Pineview Reservoir. So, make sure you stay tuned. I make this really short because this is actually a pre-recorded introduction to the podcast and Chris Penne. First off, I want to apologize. I think I called him Chris Penne. So stupid because I've known Penny for a couple years now. But guys, really just want your guys' feedback. If we should continue to do these, if you enjoy them. Maybe you hate the way I did this. Maybe you just don't like me. I don't know. I want to know that too. So let me know. Send me a message. Go over to the Utah Bass Angler Coalition Facebook page. Drop us a like over there. And go like our YouTube channel, Fish It Forward, over on YouTube as well. So, like I said, appreciate you guys being here. Let me know what y'all think. And let's get into the conversation, guys. Thanks again. All right, guys, so welcome into today's discussion, and with that, I want to introduce our guest and what the discussion's all about, and that is the Pineview Reservoir Drawdown. There has been a lot of discussion and understandably a lot of confusion about what's been happening, why it's been happening, and what it means for Utah's premier fishery, one of Utah's premier fisheries. Rather than speculate, I wanted to bring somebody on the podcast here today, on the very first podcast, by the way, the Fish It Forward podcast, help us better understand what's going on and from the DWR's perspective. This particular guest I am especially excited to have on the show because I've had the pleasure of working with him over the last couple of years through the Utah Bass Angler Coalition's involvement with the Black Bass Management Team and the DWR and the other groups that are involved with that as well. And during that time, I've seen firsthand his passion for the fisheries and his willingness to help the angling community improve all of our fisheries, not just black bass. So joining me today is Chris Penne. He is the Aquatics Program Manager for the Northern Region with the Utah Division of Wildlife. Chris, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
You bet. Happy to be here. Hey, did you say this was a first podcast?
Very first podcast. Fish It Forward podcast. We'll see how many we do. It depends on how many people actually like this stuff. So
I'll claim first. That's awesome.
Yep, you're the inaugural guest.
Okay.
So. Before we jump into Pineview, though, I'd like the listeners to kind of get to know you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your career with the DWR, where you started, how you got where you are, and what the typical day looks like for the Aquatic Program Manager in the Northern Region.
All right. I'll see if I can hit all those. Obviously, like a lot of fisheries biologists or aquatic biologists, I really like fishing and have kind of a passion for all fish that really started at a young age. I didn't really know this was a career you could get into until I was about halfway through college. But immediately, kind of when I discovered that was something that I could do, I switched majors and went into a natural resources program and really never looked back. I've been working for the Division of Wildlife for a little over 19 years now. I came there fresh out of graduate school. I went to school in the Midwest. I'm originally from Iowa, and got a bachelor's degree in animal ecology from Iowa State University, and then a master's in fishery science from that same university. Kind of bounced around Iowa a little bit, then actually between undergrad and graduate school, did some work in Montana for Montana State University in the backcountry of Glacier National Park. That was kind of my introduction to really the Western U.S. and really loved it. And when it came time to graduate, in our field, there's not many jobs out there, so you kind of go wherever you get the first job offer. But I flung some applications out west, and Utah ended up being the first place to give me an offer. So me and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, decided to make the move out and kind of start a new life out here. And haven't really looked back and really, just enjoy the place now and call it home. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you landed here because it's been a blessing to have you on the team. So, one other thing before we jump into the discussion, if you had a free day,
yeah.
where are you fishing, and what are you chasing?
So I feel like I try and be a jack of all trades. I mean, one of the things that I think about in my job is it's one thing doing the netting or the electrofishing, gathering the data, and seeing what we see about a fishery under the water. That tells us so much. That gives us an idea of what opportunity is like for anglers, but that doesn't really tell you how a place is fishing. And so I try and really kind of make my way around. And also, contrary to what people might believe about an aquatics program manager or fisheries biologist, we don't get out fishing as much as we want. No one does, And so I try and make the most of it and kind of go where fishing's hot. So I'll ramble here a bit, but I usually start out my season with Willard Bay in the spring for walleye and wiper, and then throw in a little bit of Utah Lake catfish as the season goes on, and then I'm always happy to move to trout and kokanee in the middle of the summer, and then kind of fall back to whatever's biting in the fall that I feel like chasing. So I try and kind of make my way around and especially fish the waters in the region that I oversee. So
Perfect. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I was going to ask you one more thing. How big
Yeah.
was your catfish you caught at Utah Lake?
So it was 24 pounds is what I remember. And then we, me being the guy that I am, I didn't have my tape measure with me that day.
Naturally.
But Chris Crockett, our Central Region manager, who was out with me, he had the scale, so we got the weight. If you did like a link weight conversion, it probably would have been like 36, 38 inches.
Goodness gracious. And it's still swimming.
It's still swimming, yeah.
All
Yeah, I even coming from the upper Midwest where catfish is kind of bread and butter, my thing is, number one, I don't really like to eat catfish that much anyways.
Right.
Unless it's blackened. I think there's better fish out there for me, but I don't usually keep anything over like pound and a half after that. I feel like they get a bit of off taste. So
Sweet.
yeah. Did you you wanted to know about the day in the life of a manager?
Yes, I do.
I'll try and keep it brief. It's a little bit of everything. In my role, I'm no longer, I'm still a biologist at heart, but a lot of my role is really just making sure that our program is managed and functioning. And that's a lot of work with our Salt Lake office. It's a lot of work with non-state agencies like the federal government, like Forest Service, BOR, others. And then it's a lot of kind of coaching our biologists. And I think the really fun part about my job is I don't have to be out in the field all the time, but I get to choose when I get to go out in the field, and having that flexibility is really, really great for me where I'm at in life, where I got a wife and a young daughter, and so it allows me to choose. But I love going out in the field, seeing what the biologists are seeing that helps me understand their programs, and then just giving you the day in the life of a biologist. Like, we're outside when the weather warms up in the spring, all through the summer into fall, and then when the weather kind of starts not being so fun, we kind of hole up in the winter and do reports and coordination, stuff like that. So we got a pretty good gig. So
yeah, you got to do the whole gambit. I know that it's all over the board. So
yeah, so
cool. Well, appreciate you doing that, and hopefully people can kind of get an idea of what you do and where you've been, and kind of gives people a timeline. Kids that are interested in this stuff and It's like you said, getting into this field, you kind of need to be flexible. You come in possibly for one thing, and you may pull you somewhere else for a little while just to get the experience to get to where you maybe want to go later on. So that was good information. So appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, so let's just talk here about the discussion and the confusion. A lot of confusion. I mean, I've been getting texts and messages like crazy. I can't imagine what you guys have been getting over the last few weeks. But let's just kind of explain what's happening and what your guys' role with the DWR has been, because a lot of people, as you know, they think that you guys run and control everything when it comes to our reservoirs, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So I'll let you take that away.
Yeah, happy to do it, man. And yeah, I can see how these things cause a fair amount of confusion. And yeah, we get the typical thing that DWR may control the water, which I wish we did, but we don't. A lot of the reservoirs and really like the water infrastructure is built in order, especially in the West, it's built in order to basically capture water and convey it for basically agriculture and then municipal or city uses. And that's something that we don't really have any control over, but we're pretty good at playing the hands that we're dealt when it comes to this. So basically, water conveyance and storage in our neck of the woods, especially Pineview, is Weber Basin Water, and they're a distributor that basically makes sure that people get their water shares through all the water laws that take place in Utah, and that includes agriculture, and that also includes like lawn watering down in other areas and other municipal needs. And so they're one of the people that have the seat at the table with the Pineview Drawdown. The other one's Ogden City. And kind of to lay the scope of the project, Ogden City has I believe it's 36-inch pipeline that goes underneath Pineview Reservoir between Browning Point, which for people that aren't super familiar with it is between the middle and the north arms. And then that line goes under the reservoir, kind of straddles the north arm of the reservoir where it meets the main bays, and then heads to Port Ramp. And then it goes all the way down Ogden Canyon into the city where it provides basically like culinary or potable water for a little over 120,000 citizens. The pipeline, I think according to Ogden City, actually, here, I'm going to back up and just say I'm spouting a lot of statistics here and I'm going off memory. So if I get something wrong,
Yeah, we won't hold you to it.
Yeah, by a factor or something, I'm trying my best. But anyways, that pipeline's been in operation for a long time. This was on their radar to replace at some point here in the very near future. One of the things they mentioned off the bat when we started talking with them is Huntsville City had something happen to one of their pipelines that was aging, and I know they were hoping to replace it soon, but it went out a few years ago, and I think that one made the news. People were without water and had to boil it for quite a while until they could get things fixed, and Ogden doesn't want to be in that situation. This pipeline was present before the reservoir was there, and so they retained rights to do what they need to do to basically upgrade and maintain that line when possible. The line is taking water that's from an artesian well off the Browning Point there. And so if you're familiar with Pine, you can kind of drive along that area in the north arm as it kind of butts up close to Browning. You'll see water seeping out of the ground. I noticed it yesterday while out there. And so there's a lot of water in that area. So anyways, that pipeline is due to be replaced. Ogden City kind of broached us on the subject a little over a year ago because we'd heard a little bit of talk about it possibly happening. At the time, they were looking into their various options, trying to basically just see what the substrate was like in the area. And I guess where I kind of want to give them kudos, because I know maybe some anglers that have heard about the story have gotten them, in their crosshairs. Their mayor is a former fisheries biologist for us. They care about the fishery, and basically they were looking at various ways to do this project that were going to have the least amount of impact. But they also are, as a city, they're funded by taxpayers and have to be wise with the money they've got. And so they looked at various options to try and minimize impact, but ultimately the one that we've got with the drawdown is the one that was chosen because the other options just were too expensive and exceeded the grant money they had available. This is a $100 million project, mostly funded with a grant. And, to put much higher bill on taxpayers just to preserve what we would say is the quality of the fishery and not the existence of it is kind of a hard thing for, I think, taxpayers to swallow. And so that's where they ended up a little bit of where they were. Got any more questions on there? Or do you want me to just kind of keep going about the scope of the
Uh,
project?
well, let's continue down here and just see if
Yeah,
maybe some of these other questions will bring light to it, and then you can touch on anything else. So
sure.
I guess how significant is this for the fisheries management perspective? Should we be worried long term? Can it recover, and like maybe how long to
Yeah,
recover?
that's a great question. So it's significant. It's a bit of a setback, but it's manageable, is the way that I would say. Pineview is a resilient fishery. It's shown that over the years. And the fish in there are used to drawdowns and then, going back up to full pool. This one's more significant than usual. Kind of the business as usual scenario is a drawdown maybe 16 or 20%. We've actually seen that a few times just in the past decade or so. This one's going to be down to about 2% of full capacity. That's even rounding up. I think it's about 1.7%. But the good news is it's been lower before. It got lower back in 1992 when some repairs were done to the dam. And that scenario was even a little more drastic in the way they drew down the reservoir. It happened almost kind of all at once in September after a fairly normal irrigation and withdrawal season. This one's much more, I'm going to say, deliberate and planned than the last one, or at least that's the way it appears to us. But basically, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for folks. Like, there are going to be some impacts to the fishery. Some of them would have happened anyways with the drought, and that's part of why the year was chosen this year to do it instead of waiting another year when we might be in a much better water situation and have to draw the reservoir way down again. But what we expect based on that 1992 and just what we've observed over the years is uh, we're going to lose some of the year classes that are younger, especially of fish. That probably would have happened anyways, just because whenever you draw down a reservoir to 16 or 20%, much of the habitat and nursery covers out of the water for the young age classes of fish. We've seen that happen in these other years. So those are probably going to be gone. But the nice thing is we get even a normal water year, Pineview will bounce back to pretty much full. And those fish are really, really good at reproducing, with the exception of the tiger muskie, which are sterile and we restock. One point I want to go back to on the drawdown, like I said, 2% doesn't seem like much, but according to stats shared by Weber Basin, that still actually leaves about 2,200 acre feet in the reservoir. That's about 2,200 surface areas of a swimming pool. It's quite a bit of water. The water's actually still going to extend from the Narrows out into the main bay a little bit into the middle arm, and a little bit into the south arm. And so it's going to be low, but it's not going to be dry. There's going to be water for fish. There's going to be some water passing through, just because there is basically a conservation flow in the Ogden River down below where that needs 10 CFS. That's cubic feet per second for people that don't speak water often. And so there's going to be water there. And then as far as timeline for getting back to where we were, history showed in 1992 that the perch and the smallmouth were really the first to bounce back out of the gate, and we're kind of back to previous numbers within about 5 years in terms of quality. I guess quality and numbers. Numbers will be right back at really quick, just because how fast these fish reproduce. But growing into that quality size again is really what I know anglers want to see and what we want to see. Last time crappie were a little bit slower. I can only infer as a biologist that knows a fair amount about crappie why that was, which is I'm sure they spawned pretty quickly and pulled off good numbers. But the crappie, and this happens nationwide, and it's a fairly natural thing for them, they're a boom and bust species. And what generally happens is when they boom, it takes them a long time to grow to that size that anglers want to see and that we want to see, just because their numbers are so thick that they're usually competing with themselves on that. So that's probably why they took a little bit more time. When it comes to muskie, we expect to bounce back pretty quick. We've got really good data through our partnership with Muskies Inc. That's allowed us to study Asian growth of these fish, and then our hatchery system has gotten really good at raising them. But basically, we can have a upper 20s to low 30-inch fish within about 2 to 3 years based on the growth of those fish.
Wow,
Which is pretty good. So
that is good.
hopefully that answered some of your question.
Yeah, and it kind of brings up some other questions too.
Yeah.
The this is probably the one I get the most of. I'm still getting texts. Why can't we just move the fish, Chris?
Sure.
Why can't
Yeah,
we
that's
just load them up and take them somewhere else?
several reasons. The first being until really about May of this year, we were still working with Ogden and DWR and Forest Service and Weber Basin to determine what route we were going to go on this drawdown. And Ogden City and their engineers were still exploring various options at that last minute and putting the pencil to paper on money. Like I said, this project was probably planned for 2027, but once it became apparent that we weren't getting our snow back and that it
Yeah.
wasn't going to be a good water year, those discussions had to hurry up to kind of see if they could strike while the iron's hot. But just to show people some of the stuff that we'll deal with as biologists, by the time that decision was made, it was probably mid to late May. The state of Utah has one of the stricter health codes when it comes to moving fish in terms of compared to other states and the nation. And the way that's written in our fish health code, we got to health certify at least 60 fish, basically meaning to check them for disease to make sure that we're not moving disease around. And I don't know if it's code or not, but it usually takes about 30 days to get those results back. And some of that could just be the analysis for pathogens and disease. But when you do the math on that, by the time that happens, we're into June. As part of another day in the life of, it's me and 6 other biologists that handle all aquatic resources in the northern part of the state. And anytime we engage in salvage like that, that takes us away from other big ticket projects that are also going on simultaneously. Because we're a lean, mean government agency, and we're actually pretty effective at what we do. Like during that time, we would have been collecting Arctic grayling eggs for the rest of the state that go to be stocked all around the Uintas, the Boulders, the Cottonwood Canyons. We're spawning Bear Lake cutthroat trout at Bear Lake that also provide eggs for the rest of the state. We're collecting walleye in the early spring. And those are just a few big projects, but basically, if we take our eye off those things to do salvage, then those things aren't getting done either.
Domino effect.
Yeah,
Well, not
so,
only,
yeah.
and the other thing I think about too is this is the, I mean, I'm going to use the term blowing the reservoir out because they are going to be letting a lot of water out. By the time you even got, the approval per se, if it did go through, we don't even have a way to launch boats. Is that right?
That's another factor that played in. I mean, if we would have gotten approval, it probably would have been by that time about late June, early July. That would give us a few weeks to do it. And the other thing is let's say we're talking crappie and perch, for example, or even bass. Any of those species, a lot of them have moved offshore. They're not aggregated or schooled up at that point. And so then our job becomes a lot harder and more inefficient. And then moving fish in warm water, when they're the most stressed and most susceptible to disease, it wouldn't be an easy task. Moving fish even in the springtime when they're aggregated, let's say it's crappie or bass, is a difficult job even at those times. And so to do it, in the heat, when high recreational traffic's on the water and fish are dispersed, just is not a combination where it'd probably be a worthwhile project to do. As far as like moving fish into the hatchery, our hatcheries are already strained right now by low water too, because a lot of them are fed by springs, and we're already making reductions for stocking next year because we're carrying less fish in our hatcheries because we got less water. And so,
and it really begs the question, like what, where do you put them? I mean, we kind of manage our reservoirs, and I look at it from the bass side of things. Most of our reservoirs for smallmouth we're already overpopulated on bass anyway. So, you're dumping more fish in a fishery that's already where we need harvest, and it's kind of counterproductive anyway. Now the muskie side I can kind of see, but I mean, it's a bad deal as far as that goes. You're probably gonna lose some trophy fish. I mean, but on the flip side, and you can probably speak to this too, is we're shrinking it down to a bathtub size. Those bigger fish are probably going to eat pretty well for the next year or two.
Yeah, they are. And Colby, that's one we struggled with when it came to that emergency reg change that we put on too with the muskie is there were a couple different ways that we could see it going, which was the muskie, like you said, when you shrink things down, they may be fat and happy, especially the big ones. But on the flip side, and this is just one of those unknowns, if they're concentrated enough that people are having an easier time catching them, one of our concerns is that Pineview is going to be running warmer because there's going to be less water as the water's drawn down. And there's a lot of research out there and case studies from the fisheries world that show that these larger fish, especially the muskie, they don't handling well in that warm water, and outcomes are worse for them. And one of the things that we anticipate is, the muskie anglers, like our folks with Muskie Inc., they're geared up. They know how to play fish quick and get them back out there. And even they lose fish occasionally.
Yeah.
But when people are out there and they're going to incidentally catch those big muskie, we don't think the outcomes were going to be very well for them. And we did not think that we wanted to put people in situations where they were tossing back fish that weren't going to make it. And so that's the one we kind of struggled with and debated with Muskies Inc. And nobody was thrilled about it, including us, but we felt that was probably the best one to do for the fishery.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. One other thing I was going to talk about with the reference to blowing the water out of that thing, is there any concern about? I think I talked to Taylor about this. When you let that much water out that fast, are you blowing fish downstream?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that's one that we've got a little inkling of, but we're not quite sure if it's going to be as severe as last time. So last time, as I alluded to, they kind of had a normal irrigation season, then really started blowing the water out in September when they knew that the work was going to happen to the dam. Whenever you get a big discharge like that, there seems to be an attractant flow for fish, and they blew a lot of fish out of the water that time. This time, I think it's been more controlled and deliberate, where they know the target depth they're going to on withdrawal, and they've been the water distributors, including Weber Basin, and then the water commissioner for the Weber River, have been really measured in their approach. Where really for the past month and even more, it's been going down at about a rate of 4 inches a day in the reservoir. Much more controlled flows than last time. As the reservoir's going down, it's getting now where it's moving a little bit quicker, but that's just because the reservoir's steeper. I think we're dropping maybe now about 6 inches a day. We're not sure if that's the same attractant flow as what it was in fall of 92, and we're hoping, kind of cautiously optimistic, that we're going to lose less fish out that way. So they're not blowing water out nearly as hard as they were. The one, and this is just a fisheries biologist one, but I don't have a lot of hope for the panfish and bass that go out the dam. Usually they experience barotrauma because they're going from usually 20 or 30 feet down in pressure to zero pressure when they get blown out the pipe down below. And that doesn't play well with their air bladder and other systems. Muskie actually can usually take it. They've got a more primitive air bladder system. That'll probably be okay.
Yeah, we've actually chased muskie on the river back in the day. It's been a long time, but we have seen some big muskie on the river below.
Yeah, and so there is that chance, and that's actually one of our larger. I'm not going to say concerns, but we think that's going to be one of the larger impacts of the fishery if it happens. Is as fish get drawn out the reservoir, we may lose a fair amount of fish that way. We're not going to lose all of them by any means, though, and that's the thing with this emergency reg, and I'll kind of dive into that right now if you're okay with it.
Yeah, let's just go right into that. That's perfect.
We're not putting that on because we've given up on the fishery or because we think it's doomed. We're putting that on as risk reduction, which is, since we know we think there's going to be some losses out the dam, and since we know fish are going to be concentrated, and usually concentrated fish in warmer water leads to more stress for them, we're encouraging people to take some fish, basically just to reduce the densities in there, and basically make it less stressful for the remaining fish. And that's where we're at on that. So, yeah.
So what is do you know the exact emergency regs, what the limits are?
Yeah, we tried to be as even-handed as we could, and for panfish, which includes perch and crappie, and then black bullheads, which are not panfish, but we're kind of lumping them in with them for the sake of simplicity here. We made that unlimited. The limits for those are normally, I think it's 50 for the panfish, and it might be 40 or 48 for the bullheads for some reason. I'm not sure why bullheads would be less than the panfish. Actually, crappie and Pineview are usually 20, but those are the ones that are most numerous and abundant, so those are the ones that we made the most liberal. For bass and muskie, and this is where we kind of toted a line, and we really had a lot of conversations internally about this one. We're in a situation where we don't expect visible mortality of fish in the remaining part of the reservoir, but we've only got one event to point to in the past. We think things are going to be fine. We don't want to allow really liberal harvest of those because we think they're going to make it, but at the same time, we don't want to make them sacred and then have them roll over if something does happen. But also those are our most precious fish. And so on one hand, we didn't want to see people leaving with stringers of muskie and bass. That creates a lack of trust with us and really does the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is maintain trust with anglers and preserve those valuable fish. Just like anywhere, apex predators are fewer in number, compared to their prey base. And so we wanted to maintain them, but we also didn't want them to be sacred cows that couldn't be removed at all in this, because we thought that could backfire on us if too many were kept in the reservoir as well. And so that's kind of where we landed on that. Is bass, we doubled the limit. And then muskie, we decided with the 1/40, which is our statewide reg, that keeps it simple. And then, like I said, I think that addresses better the poorer expected outcomes with large fish, whereas we think the smaller muskie might be able to handle a little bit of the angling and catch and release a little bit better. So that's where we landed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the challenge and the opportunity. What do we have planned? You guys, I've heard some rumblings about some habitat stuff, possibly some structures that we're going to be putting in. What do you guys have on the table? I know nothing's finalized and you're still hashing through that, so this is all just kind of early, and I'm sure in your planning stages, but maybe touch on that.
Yeah, great question, because I think everybody wants to at least make lemonade out of the lemons this year. I mean, nobody's really thrilled about this, but people need potable, reliable water, and it's some that really had to be done. And so everybody's trying to make the best, including Ogden City, including the Forest Service, and even Weber Basin that distributes the water is trying to shift all that water around and make sure none of it's wasted. They're trying to hold it up higher in the system. So let's talk opportunities. First opportunity for us at Division of Wildlife is we've got a history of putting habitat in Pineview and have done pretty aggressively, done a lot of aggressive work with that over the past 4 or 5 years. To date, we've put about 500 structures in deeper water in the reservoir with the goal of enhancing panfish populations, basically providing needed cover during the winter time when water levels are lower, but a lot of the natural habitat's out of the water. This will give us a good opportunity to see how we did, because a lot of that structure was placed by boat. And so you guys might see us walking the shore when it's in the dry. One thing the Forest Service has told us to pump is, for better or worse, the rule of the law is Pineview is motorless, even when the water's down and the land's exposed. And so unfortunately, we can't get out there on ATVs and do this work. We really wanted to, but we'll probably be going out and either using drones or going out on foot to check our work and maybe even move around some structures and make sure we got our placement right. So that's an opportunity we don't normally get. I'll quickly segue over Forest Service. They got a great opportunity here. The water's down. They were able to get money to finally renovate Port Ramp, which has been kind of dilapidated, really in need of some love and TLC for a long time. Prior to this year, they didn't have that money. That was due to a color of money thing with the federal government, where they previously had the money, but it was attached to Great American Outdoor Act money, which was paused. But they did have the money to modify the approach from Windsurfer Beach to Port Ramp. I didn't think a whole lot of people were going to be happy with a new approach just to find the same old crappy ramp there. Yeah. So I'm really glad. A lot of
confusion.
I'm really glad they got that money, and so that means they don't have to draw it down next year to do that work. And furthermore, they've actually collaborated with the contractor that Ogden City is using to do the pipeline work, and they're going to find some efficiencies there in terms of even I think grabbing some fill from the area where the new pipeline is going, and so that's going to reduce some costs. But basically, everything is going to get done this year with that. And then you brought up, Ogden City and us want to make some lemonade here too if we can. We haven't come up with an agreed upon amount, but what we want to look into is can both the city and us come up with some money and implement a larger habitat placement there. And so we're going to look to see what we can do there with negotiating a grant with them. Don't know if it's all going to come together or not, but as I said, Ogden's big on trying to minimize impacts to this fishery and make sure we build back stronger as well. Like I said, they got a long history with managing fisheries with the background of their mayor, and then also with all the work they've done with the Ogden River. They're really a fishing-centric city, and they're bringing that water down no lower to do this work. And so That's what we're hoping to do. As far as the habitat work, if it gets implemented, it'll probably be next spring as the water level is coming up and ramps are back in the water. Just because we need to do it by boat,
Yeah.
because we're probably not going to be bringing stuff out on sleds with human power or horsepower or
Right.
anything for the
Well, and
non-motorized.
and with that being said, too, I was going to ask, how can anglers help? And I guess it's kind of hurry up and wait and just see. But through our different avenues, the Muskies Inc. and the UBAC and your guys' avenues, I'm sure we can rally up enough help to do that. And I'm sure it'll have to be with the participation of Ogden City and their facilities and possibly some of their equipment too. But yeah, I mean, the anglers can definitely stay tuned for that, and we'll be sure to get the word out because you guys will probably need some boots on the ground, I'm guessing, depending on how big it is.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And yes, we always do. Even with kind of the magnitude that we've been doing prior to this, we've needed help. This might be one where we may need to work for several days just to get all the habitat installed. Like you said, might need some facilities to help build it in and everything. And so, yeah, kind of hurry up and wait. But we're trying to put together a volunteer list for if and when it happens, as well. That way we can call upon people and they can try and get it on their schedule. But like I said, nothing is final yet. The drawdown stuff has moved fast enough, but we're trying to really work together and try and come up with a plan with this and see if we can make things better. So
Cool. Well, I'll just ask one last question because I know you've got a crystal ball.
yeah.
Um, how long, if we have a decent winter, to fill it back to full pool? And it's not probably needing one winter,
Yeah.
right?
So from what we've been told, if we get even a normal winter, it will fill again
Really?
this year.
Wow.
Last year they came out with a banner winner after the project, but one of the great things about this project though is by the time they get to draw down and where they want to begin work in early October, they're shooting to be finished by basically the first of the year and then to begin filling right after that. And so that is one of the benefits of this option as opposed to some of the others that were discussed is they're in and out really quick and they're getting it really the most precise and accurate installation that they can. Some of the other options that were considered were like a cofferdam, a barge. Barge is can be done. It's just you're a little less sure of how well you did, and then you might have to do it again.
Well, and we've had a barge on Deer Creek for what, 3 years now?
Yeah,
2 or 3 years? I can't remember, but yeah, it's definitely a longer process
yeah.
with that project. But
Cofferdam, you got to construct it. It costs 6 million more, and then you got to deconstruct it, which also adds to time, and that could be time that you're filling. And so, those were just some of the things that were gone over. Just to keep going back to the division, like we don't have the final say, anyways. But luckily, these partners let us have input and consideration because, the big question we kept getting asked is, are fish going to die? And nobody wanted to see that, and we're like, we really don't think so. And I think we have the ability to augment flows a little bit too. This is another one. I don't want to put Weaver Basin on the line as well on this one, but they seem to think that they had the capacity to push some more water through the reservoir if things started going south. And so I think everybody agreed we're an option that, while there might be a little short-term pain, it's going to be the best one long-term and maybe the quickest and swiftest way to get back on track. So, yeah.
all right, let me just look at the notes here. I think you hit pretty much all of them there. I do want to let people know too that you guys can reach out to these guys anytime with an email, a phone call, and they will get back to you within a day or two. I mean, they're busy, but they do answer their phone calls, they do answer their emails, and they don't beat around the bush. If you guys hear rumors, if someone's talking bad, ask them directly. Don't assume that whoever you talk to has all the answers. Just ask these guys. They're super friendly. They can direct you to whatever region the biologist is, wherever your question would be. And yeah, so that would be what I would do. That's what I did. That's how, we got involved with the black bass management, and that program's starting to take off. So appreciate that, Chris. And one more thing, so before you got on, I actually explained what the podcast is, Fish It Forward, what that means to us and UBAC. Without you knowing anything about it, you've heard the term "pay it forward." It's sort of the same thing. Without you knowing what Fish It Forward means, what do you think it means, or what it would mean to you?
Yeah, we'll see how well you did with your naming then. um, I I think if I were to interpret it, it would be basically you guys and me included as an angler get a lot from the resource, and this podcast and what you discuss is going to be a way of giving back to it and giving back to the angling community as well.
Yep.
Did that hit it?
That hit it right on the nose. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you guys can fish it forward, and whether it means, you know, when you're out on the water cleaning up, or maybe, you know, a couple weeks ago there was a dad and his kid on the dock. They've been out fishing for trout, and they says, "Oh, we're kind of tired of catching trout. We see these guys catching bass. How do you catch bass?" You know, fixed them up with a couple of Ned rigs, and those guys went out and caught some bass. It was pretty sweet. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
but yeah, again, appreciate what you guys do, everybody over there at the DWR, and working with us, with the UBAC and just the public in general. You guys have just opened your arms, and it's been a breath of fresh air for us. And yeah, if you got anything else before we skip out.
I don't think so, man. I want to thank you as well for your advocacy. It's late in the afternoon while I'm doing this, so
Yeah.
having trouble pronouncing words at this point. But thanks for all you do, and thanks for reaching out. And like you said, yeah, we're always happy to talk. I mean, we got over 400,000 licensed anglers in the state, so hopefully our phones don't eventually go ringing off the hook. But we're really happy to interact with anglers, and we get a lot out of it as well. Which is we learn new things from you guys, because we're not out on the water at all times. We got a big areas to cover, and so we learn new things, and we're always happy to listen and explain what we know, you know, as well. And we're trying our best, because we're anglers too, but also we're having fun at what we do, and that makes it easy. And we really enjoy the work we do and interacting with folks. So.
Cool, man. Appreciate you being the first guest on the podcast, and we'll probably be talking to you soon here at the next bass meeting. So thank you very much, and and congratulations to Taylor on his new kiddo he's going to be having here in the next few days. So
I'll pass it along. He actually had it. It was last Tuesday, and
that's great.
Yeah, so everything's
That's awesome.
going well. So.
Well, good deal, Chris. Appreciate you again. Appreciate everybody over there, and guys, we will see you on the next episode.
You bet, Colby. Thanks, man.